The silence hit harder than rejection ever could, because it arrived slowly, one empty chair at a time, while the cafe's afternoon warmth continued as if nothing important had been lost. She sat alone at a small wooden table by the glass window, hands folded tightly in her lap, eyes fixed on the reflection that stared back at her, a woman dressed carefully for a first date that was never going to happen. The clock above the counter kept moving, cups clinked, strangers laughed, and yet for her, the world had stopped listening long ago. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and quiet miracles that arrive without warning, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Grandma Dearie. Because stories like this are reminders that hope often finds us when we least expect it. Her name was Lena, and being deaf had never made her weak, only different, though the world often mistook difference for inconvenience. She had learned to read expressions the way others read words, to feel emotions in the tightening of shoulders and the turning away of eyes. That afternoon, she read the truth clearly. The man she was supposed to meet had sent a short message earlier, one she had missed while traveling to the cafe, and by the time she noticed it, he was already gone. The reason did not matter anymore. She had dressed up anyway, smoothed her hair, and sat down, hoping perhaps he would still come. Hope for Lena had always been stubborn, even when experience warned her otherwise. As minutes turned into nearly an hour, the weight of old memories pressed down on her chest. Dates that never made it past explanations, people who smiled politely and then slowly disappeared once they realized conversations would take patience, effort, and sincerity. She did not blame them, but the loneliness still hurt. She ordered a drink she barely touched and stared at families passing by outside, mothers holding hands, fathers lifting children, ordinary happiness that felt unreachable. Her shoulders slumped, not from anger but from exhaustion, the kind that comes from constantly proving you are worth staying for. That was when movement caught her attention near the cafe entrance. Four small figures walked in almost at once, their steps uneven but determined, each dressed in the same bright color, clinging to one another like links in a chain. Behind them came a man who looked equally tired and strong, the kind of tired that lives in the eyes but never reaches the spine. He carried a backpack that looked overfilled with snacks, wipes, and responsibilities, and yet his face softened each time he looked down at the children. They were quadruplets, close in age, close in spirit, and clearly used to moving through the world together. The cafe shifted around them. Some people smiled, some stared, some seemed annoyed by the sudden noise and energy, but Lena noticed something else. She noticed how the children communicated with exaggerated expressions, hands moving more than usual, faces alive with meaning. She noticed how the father crouched low to their level, making sure they were all together before guiding them to a nearby table. And she noticed, with a quiet startle in her chest, that one of the children looked directly at her and waved with the innocent confidence only children have. Lena lifted her hand and waved back before she could stop herself. The child smiled widely, then pointed toward her, tugging at the father's sleeve. The man followed the direction of the small finger and met Lena's eyes. There was no pity there, no confusion, only curiosity and something like understanding. He nodded politely, then returned his attention to settling the children, but a strange warmth lingered in the air, as if something invisible had shifted. While she sat there, still alone but no longer unnoticed, Lena found herself watching them. The father moved between chairs, wiping hands, tying shoelaces, balancing cups, his movements clumsy yet full of care. The children laughed, bumped into each other, and tried to help in ways that only made things more chaotic. It was imperfect and beautiful, and it stirred something in Lena she had buried long ago, the desire to belong not just to someone, but to a moment that felt real. Time passed differently after that. The sting of being left behind softened, replaced by a quiet curiosity about the family nearby. When one of the children dropped a spoon and it slid near Lena's feet, she picked it up and held it out gently. The child took it with a grateful grin, and the father mouthed a thank you, placing his hand briefly over his heart. Lena understood that gesture perfectly. Gratitude did not need sound. In that simple exchange, something began to change. Lena felt seen not as a problem to solve, but as a person present in the same space, sharing the same afternoon. The father noticed her attentive expressions, the way she responded to the children without hesitation. He noticed how naturally she fit into their orbit without demanding attention. And though no words were spoken, a quiet connection formed, built not on explanations, but on shared humanity. As the cafe light shifted toward evening, Lena realized she was smiling, truly smiling for the first time that day. The loneliness that had followed her into the cafe no longer sat so heavily on her shoulders. It had not vanished, but it had been acknowledged, softened by kindness that asked for nothing in return. When the family eventually gathered their things to leave, the children waved enthusiastically, and Lena waved back, her chest tight with a feeling she could not name, something close to home.